Hi, I'm Alex Brewer, sculptor for Mondo, and your adulthood is trash if you're not watching X-Men 97.
With Tom Cruise and like Denzel Washington were in the 90s, they are now. Like that's them.
And to think at Rhode Island Comic Con in November, they were dead.
Yeah.
Like their booths were like dead, and I was like,
Oh, wow.
oh. But they had this massive like X-Men statue, and I forget what it was now.
It was all of them.
It was yeah, okay, I was not wrong. It was like an 8-foot like statue of all the characters together.
Well, yeah. Well, they were individual statues because there was someone on like reels going around Instagram of the guy like building them, putting them together, painting and stuff, and
yeah,
all those were there. So it was pretty cool, and all cel shaded looking, animated, and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. I don't know where my photos went, but
yeah, I didn't get any pictures of it, but
I did.
Yeah.
But yeah, November, that was the calm before the storm. Like, we did not know
I like
what
that term.
we were in for. Yeah.
It just ended yesterday, and holy shit, it did not end the way I was expecting it to.
Yeah.
With the whole Professor X and Magneto's mind and doing all that stuff, I really thought they were gonna like pull Onslaught as like the finale.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that we didn't get anything from Onslaught, but maybe for season 3.
Yeah, I mean,
because right now season 2 is not looking like that. Yeah, tell me about it. Like, how many storylines did they cram into this season? They did so much.
Yeah.
And the important part for me is almost the whole season revolved around Cable.
Oh, right. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Your guy.
Like, I was so ecstatic, and like them actually showing him being born, and that whole scene right there was just cool to see, right? Like Jean going or Madeline going into the delivery room, and the whole like Rogue taking the powers of the doctor and actually delivering the baby and stuff. I'm like, all right, that's pretty cool. And
it was.
I was fingers crossed. I'm like, hopefully we get more Cable, and someone listened to my prayers and more than answered them.
They're like, we already wrote that in there. Like,
yeah. And then next season, they're doing the whole Ascani son, it seems, like, or at least they set that up. Like, there's going to be even more. We're going to get the full Cable story.
Oh, I'm so happy. Yeah. The second that scene started and I saw the hooded woman, I'm like, oh, that's Rachel, isn't it? It's Rachel. And then when she introduced herself, I was like, oh, and then we got little like 12-year-old Nathan comes walking out. And I was like, oh shit, we're going to get the Red and Slim, like raising him. And like, they did a good job of taking all these stories and changing them just a little bit. Yeah. So they all work together, even like, Bishop bringing Cable to Nathan to the future helped. So the whole Rachel thing at the end was more of a surprise, because obviously if we followed the comics and she takes them and all that, it kind of ruins that surprise and where they're going.
Yeah,
I did like how they split the team though, and it's pretty much half the team is back when Apocalypse was a teenager or whatever you want to call it, before he was Apocalypse. And then the other half is like in the thick of the shit. I'm definitely curious on how they're going to work that out.
Because it's true, because that Cable's future is one where Apocalypse rules everything, right? So it's like, the alpha and omega of Apocalypse's like rise to power, right? It's funny, the ending reminded me of like of Chrono Trigger. If you ever played that game where it's like it takes place
absolutely.
in like, the distant future and the deep past, and like
and then alternate like
split
adjacent
up,
timeline.
Different times,
that was so good though.
It's super fun, and yeah, like a great, like this show is so good at honoring the material but taking it in a surprising direction and feeling new, and I'm glad that like it wasn't like, okay, we go from Bastion to Onslaught. It's like, no, we're going in somewhere you haven't seen before, but maybe you have a sense of like where it's going, but like it feels like a new direction. And I think I give the show a lot of praise for like kind of consistently doing that this whole season.
Not only that, but they used everybody so well.
Yeah.
I like the morph blew my mind through every single episode. Like I never thought of his powers like that before.
Yeah.
You know, because in the 92 show, he barely used them. He morph into people and just walk around. In this one, you get him as the Blob, as a trampoline. He's flying a Sauron, and
it's best cameo after cameo. Yeah, it's like
it
perfect
was brilliant.
Vehicle for nods. Yeah,
brilliant. But the best is Morph Smash.
Yeah,
I love that. I was dying when he did that. I'm like, all right, that's just icing on the cake. Like, thank you.
Yeah.
That was super good.
Yeah. And yet they're still like, they still held back characters. Like there's characters that we haven't seen, you know, like very smart, like, you know, just saving stuff for future seasons. Like we don't need to like have it all up front.
But even
as excited as we are, you know,
even those teases with Morph though, that's just a tease. It looks like the characters we love, but it's still Morph, and it was only, you know, a 10-second clip when he does it. That still saves them for other seasons where they can be full front prominent as the actual characters. So that, you know, it's that, you know, give you just a little taste. Yeah. That way you want to come back and
the first taste indulge. Is always free.
First one's free.
And we're all looking at that. Free. We were all looking at that bulletin board that Forge had of like, oh, who's out there? Who might be X-Men next season? Like,
oh, seriously, like that too. Like this show, Cable's always been my favorite. I've always loved Bishop and Forge as well. And the fact that they got so much screen time in this made me so happy, especially Forge. Like I didn't expect that out of him, and the whole like story arc between him and Storm and all that. I was very happy with that.
Yeah, the life death stuff.
Yeah. But the funniest thing is when I first started watching this season, it took me back to our previous recording with you, how we talked about X-Men 92, introducing, here's your new character, Jubilee, get thrown into the mix. Part of the X-Men, here's Kitty Pryde getting thrown in the mix. Same thing with this one with Roberto. Yep. I'm like, shit, they did it again. But you know what? It works every freaking time.
You got
every time.
I was watching the first episode. I was like, what?
And cool that now it's
Did you say reskin it?
Now it's Jubilee sort of showing him the
showing the ropes. Yeah.
And because you know, because like as we said before too, like at the heart of X-Men is this conflict. You know, it's multi sides to a problem, and whether you're side with Xavier or Magneto or you know Bastion, like it's like the show is like showing everyone's viewpoint, right? And so you need that character who is having to make up their mind, like, you know, Roberto, like he has to choose, like, well, am I going to go with the X-Men or Magneto? Like, who's right here? Xavier, like, you know, and you know, you as the audience are being asked to, like, you know, to make that same decision based on what you're seeing. And this season went through so many ups and downs where it just like, I think at every, we're just like, man, Magneto is right. Like, sorry, Xavier, like the dream was nice, but like, this is reality.
We tried it. We tried it.
But then Xavier comes back and you're like, let's give peace a chance.
It was easier when you were gone, man.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. For real. It was a roller coaster. Absolutely. Like ups and downs. But the thing is from episode 1 on, it did not stop. That was that's the best part. And I think 10 episodes, unless I missed something important, except for in the episode, besides them building the relationship between Roberto and Jubilee, there's one filler episode, Motendo.
Right. Yeah. But even then, it was like, you know, it was a fun episode, and it was designed to sort of designed to say like, okay, this is the episode where we have to kind of let go of our X-Men nostalgia. Like, we're gonna poke fun at the stuff we all want to see. That's just like, oh, just have it be about like fighting bad guys and like doing cool stuff with our mutant powers and like that fun childlike aspect of X-Men. It's like we're gonna kind of do our thing with that and then move on because this show's gonna go in another direction. I think the Genosha, the Remember It episode is like right after that one, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
pretty soon after. So it's like it's saying like, yeah, it's time to let go of some of our nostalgic feelings about X-Men and move on to something new.
Yeah,
I did appreciate the Motendo episode though for basically doing like half the episode in like bits and pieces of the old video games.
Yeah,
and I was like,
super cool.
I'm pretty sure I've played that.
Well, yeah, it is activating this sort of like as we talked here too, like a big part of X-Men in the 90s, like being a fan of X-Men is the video games, the arcade games, like that, that and the trading cards and the action figures. Those are sort of the pillars of of X-Mania.
Speaking of action figures, we got the best cameo ever. We got Wolverine's motorcycle.
Yeah.
Like, I saw that. I had to pause and freeze frame and take a picture, and I was like sending it to everybody after they watched the episode. I was like, "Do you watch it yet? Do you watch it yet?" And the second they were like, "Yep," I was like, "Boom!" I was like,
"It's a
amazing.
Motorcycle with claws."
It's so like stupid, but the fact that they put it in the episode for us fans is just that shows you how much care and attention they put into this season.
They went places that like never thought they would go. Like it's just like this is such a like love letter doesn't even come close to describing this show. Like this show is like a marriage proposal to X-Men fans. Like, but yeah, I mean, just like, yeah, they just gave us everything. They just gave us so many great gifts with this show.
Yeah, I mean, like even if we start off episode 1, right? I like how they show us the X-Men in like their everyday lives, right? They're playing basketball on the court. They're sitting around the freaking coffee table drinking some like coffee and tea and stuff. I like that they showed that beignets, that humanity behind them too. And even when they're doing the documentary about them, and it shows Cyclops like sleeping with like a visor with like an elastic band on his head, and he takes that off, puts his glasses on. Like the fact that they like dove into like the personal lives of them like that, I really enjoyed that because it helped build the world and take me further into believing this fake reality that we've been a part of for 30 plus years.
Yeah. Well, I think that was also very much at the heart of this season is, in that episode 1, it's like, Scott and Jean are planning to leave the X-Men and they're thinking about, what can we have a normal life or a life without having to worry about all of the, it seems like things are settling down. Like there's some stability. Like it describes a time where after like Xavier's supposed assassination, like just things are the mutant human relationship is healing and it looks like things are moving towards tolerance. So like as we know, that's just a complete illusion and that things couldn't be worse. But it starts
tolerance is extinction.
Yeah, and it starts from this place where you can see what Xavier was hoping for. Like he's like, we've fought our war, and now this is a moment for me to go off and be with Lilandra and like have like the next chapter of my life where I'm not teacher mentor, where I can be my own, do my own thing. Scott and Jean, I'm going to give them the chance to raise their child and have a life outside of the X-Men. And I'm going to give Magneto an opportunity to walk my path and grow as a person and fight for peace, right? And then of course all that like that it's the dream, and the dream is premature, and they realize, well, that was maybe not in the cards for us to use a Gambit term, but also maybe we need to rethink what we're fighting for and rethink who we are and what defines us. And maybe, you know, the normal life, like maybe that is just an illusion and isn't something that we should be even trying, you know, we should embrace the family that we have, that the life we have created as X-Men, you know. So
yeah, I mean, even after Xavier comes back and, you know, Cyclops and him kind of have it out, Cyclops is like, even if I was on my own, do you not think I'd be right back here the second shit hit the fan? So he's like, just like you were in freaking outer space and you're back now to do this. Why wouldn't I? So it's, you know, that trope, right? Like, you know, you can have all the best intentions to, you know, for them to go on their own, but they're always going to end up there because that is family, right? They've cultivated this family of everybody where they're not going to let it go. They're not going to sit by while, you know, Beast is getting his ass kicked, you know, or whatever. But
yeah. Well, and I think there's this kind of running theme. Magneto mentions it several times of you know, the story of Moses, of this dream that they are fighting for that will be realized, but they won't live to see it, you know. And I think that's what Xavier and the X-Men and Magneto come to terms with is, okay, we thought we were there, we thought we could have the dream, but we're realizing that the dream may still be worth fighting for, but we have to keep fighting for it. Like we are probably not going to live to see it. Yeah.
I'm trying to blank.
Like, I don't know.
There's a lot to take in, right?
There's so much like that. I think that's where I'm drawing a blank is like what do I want to talk about? Where do I go with this? Because again, so much has happened, and like the fact that whole what was it called, the giant sentinel that attacked Genosha.
Yeah.
I forget what they called it, but that whole scene, like the fact that like it just massacred, like you see like the Hellfire Club just dead, Leech is you know dead, Gambit.
Yeah.
I mean, good chance he's coming back if you saw the after credit scene.
Yeah,
but
always leave a little hope, but it won't be, you know, it's not going to be an easy return. Like it's, you know, like
that after credit scene was just enough, right? To be like, all right, I think we know where this is going, and I'm okay with it.
But it could be, but it might be just as devastating. You know, we're not out of the woods there.
And I think they showed that they could do whatever. You know, we don't necessarily know what they're gonna do with it, but the best thing that came out of that Gambit's death was that freaking eulogy that Nightcrawler gave. Like, holy shit!
Yeah,
like that was brilliant. Like, I'm listening to that and I'm like, oh my god! Like, this is, you know, whoever wrote that actual like eulogy was moving. Like, I was like, holy shit!
The speeches in this show just top notch. Like like anytime a character, and there's a lot of moments where characters have to give like a monologue or a speech, perfectly written, like just so eloquent and effective and clear. And in the case of Nightcrawler, it even you know, it's well tailored to the character where it feels like you know, it feels like a eulogy. And yeah, I mean, in Nightcrawler in general, like they just got him perfectly, like you were saying with Morph, where it's like they not only land the personality, but it's also the powers. Nightcrawler, we see the most insane fight scene with Nightcrawler that's like every bit as good as the lighthearted, you know, carefree Nightcrawler, and the sort of support system that Nightcrawler can be through his, you know, his inspiration.
When he had those three swords just going nuts, and then the best scene, arguably the best scene in the whole freaking season, was that POV teleport scene with him and Wolverine. I was like, holy fuck! I'm like, that's like, and I saw Bo DeMeo was like doing like an AMA almost type thing, and he was like, "Yep, that was a last minute thing that we decided to add." And it's just like, holy shit! Like, you know, and how many times do you hear about bands and they talk about their recording an album, and the last song that they record that they put on the album that they weren't even going to use ends up being their biggest hit.
Yeah,
you know, so it was just.
Well, and that's what's great
when
about
I saw
this.
that scene, like I melted.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the beautiful things about this show is that it feels like, you know, there's reverence for the source material, but they're also having fun with it, and they're allowing themselves to and they're really creative people who are thinking about things we haven't seen before. They're looking at it from a different perspective. What if we did this? Like, wouldn't it be cool? Let's, you know, asking questions like, why do we only always see it this way, or why does this character always portrayed like this? What if we did this? Like all the great mechanics of storytelling that just like yield exciting new fun things.
Yeah, and I mean, even like the first episode, I I was never heavy into the comics. It was more, you know, X-Men 92 and from there on. But the way Cyclops uses powers and like he's just total badass, and it's like
pushing himself around the floor.
Yeah, it's like he's supposed to be a little bitch that, like, you know, loses to Wolverine all the time and then gets his ass kicked in the movies. Like, this is fantastic. Like,
it makes sense because like Cyclops
this is why he's the leader.
Yeah, he spends the most time in the danger room, and this kind of, you know, I feel like the nature of Cyclops' powers, we're used to usually seeing him at a distance firing that beam at people, but like in the comics and stuff, and I remember specifically kind of like in the Ultimate comics, like he was like, he knew combat training, because it's like, well, what if I'm in a situation where I don't have the optic blasts? Like I need to be able to, like, you know, melee fight essentially. And so here we see him combining that. He's using his optic blasts in close quarters
strategically.
So cool.
Yeah, exactly. It's like straight to the character. Like he's a thinker, he's a strategist, he's extremely well trained.
It's not just you know, Cyclops blast. He's doing stuff with it. He's, you know, we'll bring it back to the Morph Smash thing. Cyclops blast. You know?
This is a show that is not settling, right? Like it's like, and I feel like we've seen so many sequels and reboots that just kind of like rest on the laurels of the previous iteration and sort of rely on the assumed interest of the built-in fan base. But so they then get a show that is like, no, we're gonna like leave it all on the field. Like we're going to really like dig into this stuff and like and push it even further. I mean, it's already starting at such a high place. We're gonna find a way to like push it even further. Like it's cool.
Yeah. I mean, even the fact that like they went there and they ripped the adamantium out of Wolverine. Like they even like went there. Like I was like, holy shit! I never thought that they would do that in a cartoon.
I mean, I hoped they would, but I mean, it's very cool that like it's again like it's very similar to the original series, which took popular storylines from the like Claremont comics and kind of remixed them and worked them into the more modern storytelling. Like they're doing that here too. It's like it's actual storylines from the comics. Like, you know, they combined Mutant Massacre and E for Extinction, the like new X-Men Grant Morrison storyline, beautifully combined it, and then that kind of leading into like Fall of the Mutants, but you know, with a little bit of Fatal Attractions thrown in, like, and then of course Operation Zero Tolerance. It's just like this amazing kind of like mixing of various X-Men storylines that, you know.
My guess is when they were creating this, they're probably thinking, we don't know how long we have.
Yeah.
Right? Because realistically nowadays it's rare that you get 6-9 seasons deep of anything, especially a cartoon. So they're probably like, let's give the fans what they want. Let's do as much as we can, you know, before we're canceled or whatever, you know. So that,
I mean, there's no assurance that, I mean, even though it's X-Men, it's like, you know, this is a revival of an X-Men from 35 years ago or 30 years ago. Like it, it may not be what people are looking for now. I mean, the audience may not be there. There's no like assurance, even though X-Men's like a big property. So yeah, this felt like they were like, this might be the last X-Men series, season that we get to do. Let's make sure that we do everything that when we end the season, like we'll feel happy, like we have done a great X-Men show. That's kind of, it's like, it's, and you feel that.
But
you
they
feel
did. They
nothing,
did it in a way that does allow for more to come. But you're right. It is one of those things where nowadays, do we get a season? Do we get 2 seasons when we're lucky? Like 3 if like, you're
they're signed up for 3 right now.
Right. Like
two's already been written. Like before Bogue left.
They weren't aware.
Right. Yeah. I know. I'm just saying, like, dispel any like uncertainty. We're getting 3 seasons unless something explodes or implodes, whatever. So that's good. Yeah. So at least we're gonna see like where this apocalypse and all that ends up. Hopefully, are we gonna get Onslaught? I don't know. I hope.
I feel like we got to,
at this point with that whole like mind fuckery that they were doing and stuff. But I hope that this goes on long enough that we get to see like the Messiah storylines with Hope and everything. Because since this season was so focused on Cable, even though he might not have been there in every episode, it was pretty much revolved around him and everything. I'm hoping that they, especially now that they're teasing it and, the Red and Slim and the Ascani clan and all that, like, okay, well now maybe they do that and then they come back around and then there's Hope and, Cable saving her and then Bishop's trying to kill her. That whole trope where, Bishop just goes around the time stream trying to kill people.
Yeah. Well, and the whole, what was also happening in the comics during that time was Utopia, which was sort of like Krakoa Part 1, where it's like, can the mutants actually have like their own like sovereign nation, like because like the X-Men were living on an island, right? Like at the time, and sort of their own governing body, which never goes well. Like for the and obviously they did that with Genosha this season, so I don't know if that, but like the point is like there's more stuff to do in that vein, of having some sort of a sanctuary for mutants.
So, it's not going to be Asteroid M anymore, but
right.
That's the other thing, right? When Magneto resurrects Asteroid M, and like when they go to fight him, tell me that you didn't get Pride of the X-Men vibes when Nightcrawler teleported everyone into the. I was like, oh my god, that's.
They're wearing their costumes from Pride of the X-Men.
Oh my god, that was honestly one of the best things that they did, is just changing everyone's costumes in the last like 3 episodes.
Yeah,
I like Brown Suit Wolverine better. Even we got Marvel Girl, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? Like it's like, all right, this is freaking cool. All right, you're doing that. Yeah, and it made sense.
Cyclops and Storm looked great too. Those costumes are so classic. Like
that's just it. They're timeless. Like they invoke so much nostalgia that I just, because when I was a kid, I had the that light up Cyclops. With that, I mean, he had the white X for the X Factor uniform, but like that's kind of adjacent to it compared to like the Jim Lee design.
Yeah. Again, it's like, if this is the last X-Men show we ever get to make, like we're gonna do everything. Like I mean, we even got like Punk Storm, right? Like for brief, where she's in the bar and she meets Forge, but like she's in the full Punk Storm 80s outfit, like and then the white overalls from Life Death, like the Adversary shows up in this. Like I mean, that stuff was so amazing with Storm facing her literal inner demons, like
the claustrophobia, all that stuff.
Oh yeah, and those themes of her realizing, like that other, there's so many great you know, thematic aspects of the X-Men world explored in this, like, you know, the sense of her realizing like, oh, I've been holding myself back, you know, the X-Men, being a part of the X-Men, yes, they are my family, yes, it's a important part of my identity, but it is also an act of conformity, and because the X-Men are kind of conforming to, like, we're playing by the humans' rules, and we are allowing them to dictate how much we can be. And Storm is a goddess, like she is like Omega
legit.
level mutant, like she is like, you know, an elemental force, right? And so realizing, you know, somebody like that realizing like, oh, I need to like throw off the like shackles of society and, you know, start living my truth, right? Like, you know, and we see that like amazing rebirth where she's sort of like back to basics, like, or back to her prime, like she's sort of like, you know, she is reborn as Storm. It's like a spectacular moment.
I
and
like
it's
that
her, and she has to
costume too.
Oh yeah, it's I mean I mean, I'll always love the like Jim Lee Storm, but like that you know, black costume of hers is like one of the most, I think one of the most iconic superhero costumes around. I mean, like the yellow lightning piping on it and the cape, like it just doesn't get better than that, you know.
No. Oh yeah, she looked great in that.
I was gonna say, like, you met what you just said though, how like the X-Men are into the conformity and everything. When Scott went off on that reporter, the dude snapped. Like, but he wasn't like, that's the thing is though, he wasn't wrong. Like, like, and I think that was it. Is like, it was. I think it needed to kind of be said for them to understand, like, you guys are like afraid of us, but you're rightfully afraid. Like,
well, and what's the dark side of a dream? It's denial. It's like wanting to believe that the dream is reality when it's not. And so the X-Men realize like, oh, we've been trying to live Xavier's dream so long that like we're in denial over it, over who we are, how much of a impact the stuff that we go through is actually how much scarring has actually happened, like how much trauma we actually are walking around with, not wanting to face, just wanting to be like, you know, a forward facing superhero team, you know, the good mutants, right, that people aren't afraid of. Like, that's all like an act, or that's all just, you know, like this forced facade that like ignores like the real like hard shit that we're dealing with, that we are going through. And like, so you
we're
have
dying,
Storm coming to that.
And you don't even care.
Like,
you're still mad at us, and we're literally giving our life for you, and you're still mad at us. Like,
and just and undergoing things that people couldn't understand. Like he married a clone and had a child with a clone, and then his like who he thought was his wife like came back. Like, no one can understand that. Like, who isn't an X-Man, who isn't a mutant, like, you know. And those are the like he's realized, because again, it's like it starts with him wanting to have a normal life and realizing like, oh, that's never going to happen for me. You know, I can no longer ignore the impact that trying to save the world has had on my life.
Can we talk about how he is not unhinged? Like the fact that, like you said, he has a baby with a woman who turns out to be a clone of the girl he fell in love with, who then later on, you know, his original wife comes back. He doesn't know where one ends and the other begins. The clone dies. His son gets kidnapped, infected with the virus, and gets sent to the future for him to presumably never see again. Like,
and he's also reliving his own like childhood trauma of being abandoned by his father. Like he's he's like the one thing he didn't want to happen was to become his father and repeat those mistakes.
And then he was forced to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
that's Cyclops. Cyclops' true superpower is keeping it together in the face of all that. Like that he can just be like, well, you know, I'm the leader of the X-Men. I love Jean or Madeline. Like I love that person, like whoever they may be. Yeah. Like, you know, I miss my son. I want to do right by my son. Like
I'm gonna snap at the poor reporter and then I'll be fine.
I did like how
take a few deep breaths.
He was like
I did like how Sinister was kind of trying to fuck with Jean and be like, I can tell you when I switched you guys out, and she was like, I don't give a fuck, and just boom, like it's like, all right, go Jean.
Yeah, and turns to the audience like, and neither should any of you.
Yeah, right. Oh, that was so good. Like, but we kind of got an answer because she came out of the water as the Phoenix. So we at least know somewhat, like, all right, because they've toyed that. Was she the Phoenix? Was Madeline the Phoenix? Like, okay, it was Jean. They just settled that.
Yeah, possibly. Although there is the potential that she absorbed Madeline's memories and when she died during Genosha. So it could be. So if Madeline was the Phoenix, it's like, well,
God damn it.
They're all the same thing, right? Like.
God damn it, yeah. All right.
But I mean, it would make sense because there was that period during the Phoenix saga where Jean was presumed dead. She was missing in action, so could have been that's where the switch happened, and who knows?
Yeah, I did like to when I think it was part 2 of Tolerance's Extinction, where Sinister is like taking over Cable. Yeah. And I just love the quote where he was like, my mother was a world-class psychic. Stuff like that tends not to skip a generation. And then he just goes fucking house. And it's like,
because we never seen that before in the animated series. Like Cable using his telekinetic, his psychic gifts.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, he's using it the whole time to just stop the virus from spreading. So just to see him do that just for a second, and you know, I hope we get Strafe at some point too.
Oh Strafe. Yeah. There's still so much on the table. Like I feel like next season we're gonna see X-Force. Like I have a feeling that Cable is gonna take Jubilee and Sunspot, and they're gonna recruit others. Deadpool. You know, and Cannonball. Cannonball has shown up in the series and the previous series.
Did he? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't like
it's like season 5. Yeah, no, he's not in the new one, the new season, but he has been in the past. And I don't know, I think we're gonna see X-Force, and that's gonna be the sort of hardcore mutant resistance in the present day.
I mean, we at least in '97 we got Mojo, so that tells us Shatterstar can just show up now.
Yeah. Yes, you haven't seen him this season. Yeah.
Who are we gonna get? Jeff?
Domino, like Domino's like shown up in cameos, but like never front and center. Yeah, I think we could see that. I feel like we might see because we don't know where in time Wolverine and Morph and Storm ended up, and obviously Wolverine's in bad shape. But like I feel like maybe we might get to see some of Wolverine's past, like Wolverine's origins, which have never been explored in the cartoon like it was in the comics. But you know, we don't really know like where he comes from. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe it's better to leave it a mystery.
Listen, after how many years since 2002, so 22 years, this barely had Wolverine in it, and I fucking loved it.
Yeah.
Like I was, you know, because from the first live action movie, they just shove Wolverine down your throat for the past 22 years.
Yeah, we've got like 12 Wolverine movies. Like,
yeah, like enough. And even you know, he wasn't prominent in X-Men Evolution. He was in it, but then there was literally Wolverine in the X-Men animated series where it was all about him rebuilding, you know, the school and all that. And then the first movie all the way through to even now, Deadpool and Wolverine, which I'm super excited for. I'm happy. That's what I want. But
Wolverine,
I just love the fact that he took a step back.
Yeah, because like every X-Men fan like can tell you, it's like it's an ensemble, right? Like, and Wolverine's an important part of it, but he's a part of it. He's not like the main thing, which, he's sort of like the Darth Vader of X-Men, where he's like, like the character is, because he's got claws on his hands and he's just tough. Like he's like popular. Like people who don't know X-Men at least know Wolverine, and like he's the most popular character to the world, right? So if you're going to do the movie, which needs to appeal to the world, you're like, well, we're going to make it about our most popular and recognizable character from this.
Sure.
But X-Men, and again, this show, it's like this is for true X-Men fans, and maybe like a little more Wolverine he was definitely like, we got good moments. Like we got enough moments with him.
He got to make out with Jean Grey.
Like one of the most badass Wolverine fight scenes where he's falling through the air, slashing Prime Sentinel or Omega Sentinels as he goes. Good. Like, they gave us some really great Wolverine stuff.
No, I was happy. I'm not against them giving us more, but it was just a refreshing break from X-Men content without Wolverine being shoved down your throat. And I didn't realize it until you said it, but we don't know where him and Storm and Morph ended up in this whole thing.
Right.
And they did show us Omega Red a few times.
Yeah.
So maybe they are going to go into his lineage, history, origin, whatever.
I mean, his deep path, like we might see his childhood. We don't know where they are in time, right? But it's true. It's like they're definitely withholding some of the big. They teased the big Wolverine baddies, which Silver Samurai, Sabretooth, Omega Red, Lady Deathstrike. Like, they're we've seen them, but they definitely have withheld them. I mean, Weapon X Lies and Videotape from the original series is like one of the best episodes, I think. So there's like plenty to explore around there.
But we'll see too, because Deadpool is part of that initiative, the Weapon X program, and I heard that was the one rule that they were given when making the show is Deadpool is off limits. Probably because of the movie coming out.
Which is so ironic, because if there's like one character that like you can mess with anything canonically about him, it's like, because he's just a complete fourth wall breaking, like anything goes, like, is Deadpool.
Yeah.
Why are there rules around Deadpool? Like, that's the one character that shouldn't have any rules attached.
Well, and from a comic book perspective, Gwenpool has less rules. But
hear me out.
She's like from our world, right?
She's our world sucked in to the comic world, and whereas she just knows how to defeat everybody because she's read the comic. So it's like it's the one character that circumvents Deadpool's like fourth wall. It's Gwenpool.
It's the fifth wall. Hear me out. The Wolverine and Deadpool movie. What if we see that they're obviously going to be jumping through timelines. The TSA is involved, or whatever. TVA, not the airport security. So
TSA and Wolverine now.
What if he's jumping through timelines and we get a clip of him in X-Men '97?
Oh, that would be so good.
But like live action, full on live action, Ryan Reynolds. And then everything else around him
like Roger Rabbit,
like Roger, like reverse like Roger Rabbit. Yes, yeah.
It's like into the across the Spider-Verse where you get
Prowler.
Where you get Prowler, but it's childish Gambino.
Yeah,
live action. He's just like, what?
Yeah. Oh, that'd be amazing.
Like Roger Rabbit style.
That's a brilliant idea. That would be Man, I really hope there's something like that, because like we see him jump through like a portal in the trailer. Like, I mean, the show's such a hit now. I mean, they might be able to like
last minute ad.
We got till
July. we have 2 months. We can do it.
Can we talk about how big of a hit it is? Right? Like,
yeah,
sure, there's a lot of people who, from a comic book perspective, who love this show, right? Because, like we've talked about, like, they've done so many things well, like the intertwining of the stories, rewriting it so it feels like I know what's gonna happen, but it feels like a fresh face. Like you've changed enough, right? Like, but I don't think I've seen as many posts on a Wednesday about
during the day.
Yeah, it's either Wednesday or Thursday. Everybody's posting about X-Men 97. I haven't seen this popularity in my feed since like season 3 of Walking Dead. And before that, it was like Sopranos and High School.
Breaking Bad, right? Breaking Bad got some good.
Breaking Bad, yeah. All right, I'll give you Breaking
yeah,
Bad.
Other than that, there's not been
like
much.
That's it. It's like people who don't read comics are loved the X-Men cartoon because it did appeal to more. It sucked some people in, but not everybody was like decided to make the leap into comic books because pick a reason, right?
Yeah.
Cost, availability, locale, whatever.
Too confusing.
Right? It's not the cool thing to do.
Yeah, it wasn't the cool thing, but you could sit at your house and watch cartoons. It was totally fine, right? But so many people have been talking about this show that like Mike said, it got picked up for 2 more seasons, like after episode 1 aired or something like that, which nowadays
that's strong,
is ridiculous. Like,
well, because
it's a rarity.
I think it's also like in a lot of the shows you mentioned, it's like people sort of discovered it over time. Like this feels like it's just an immediate, because like the first 2 episodes were so undeniably good, and it like kind of never dipped. You know, the so like it's just, you know, out of the gate, it's such a show of quality that and also like that
it's
has
true.
something for everyone. Like any level of X-Men fan that you're at, or like wherever you're coming from, like it's got something for you. Like it really pulled something.
It really
off,
does. It brings all of it together. Like even the filler episode. Like I said, it talks about, it's the video game one. Even if you never watched a cartoon, you played one of the 15 video games from the 90s. Right? Like whether you were playing on the like
Sega Genesis,
or whether you just know about some of the characters because of Marvel vs. Capcom, like whatever, like people played those games, and
which we got that version of Cable in 97.
Yeah,
I love that. What were we expecting? Black leather? Like, yes.
Yeah.
A big middle finger to the first movie when what are you expecting? Yellow spandex? Like, oh, that's so good.
It's a 23-year long comeback.
Yeah. Right? It was perfect though. It was great.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. That was so good. But what I hate about this show though is it makes me want to jump online and buy a bunch more toys.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, shit. All right. Well, now it's like
I'm not gonna talk you out of that.
Yeah, please don't.
It makes me want to make a lot. Like every time watching these episodes, I'm like, I gotta sculpt. I gotta go sculpt some of these. Like,
there you go.
How would you sculpt Morph?
Oh, I mean, it would take a long time. You just all the alternate heads and parts, and yeah, I mean,
that could be like the old Toy Biz figure. Just gotta give him what, four heads.
No, it's got, sculpt a full Colossus, a full Magic, a full it's just gonna be a gigantic set of everything, every character they turn into.
I feel like base figure, and then you do the blind packs for all the suits.
No,
that's it.
Not even. I feel like this is something Hasbro would do, where you get they'll give you Morph, and then they'll re-release every single X-Men figure they've ever done, but instead of like Juggernaut on the box, it says Morph.
Yeah, it's great. They could do it with like the Glios system where it's all swappable parts.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
Make
actually.
Combo Man.
Oh geez, I would love to have a 97 Morph figure. I love what they did with him, and then giving him the brown jacket on top of the suit, and I'm like, I need that figure.
But we never, it's true, we never, in this series, we never see them without the jacket. So, but like the like bare sleeve training suit, like it'd be cool to get that too.
I love the fact that we got like alternate suits and stuff. But that was just, that was just like I said earlier, icing on the cake. Like we're X-Men nerds. That's why we're here talking about this. We love this shit. And it's like, give me every single costume. Like, I don't care if it's just like, oh, we're going to battle this guy today. I'm going to wear this suit instead. Like, show me like Cyclops going through his closet, like a hanger. It's like, no, this outfit. Yes. It's
the clueless.
Yeah.
Like a dry cleaner's rack.
And, I'd like to see some Joe Mad looks at some point, like the Joe Madureira Storm and the like Wolverine with the like bandana mask and I'd even take those like space suits that like Rogue wears and Magneto. Joseph, like maybe Joseph shows up. I don't know. We've already done clones once.
Yeah. I would love to see them bring back. I want to see Colossus, not as a cameo, as a morph form, because Colossus has always been like one of my upper tier characters.
And he looks so good in this show. Like you see him in the
costume. He looks great.
Like it's a perfect Colossus. Yeah.
I would love to see him in the Acolytes outfit.
Oh yeah.
That'd be pretty badass.
They did mention they did mention some like Magneto extremists like on the radio at the end. Like they're talking about like Graydon Creed like running for president, and Magneto's got like a kind of cult, so we might see some more acolytes. Like
shit, I missed that part too. I only watched the episode 3 times. You think I catch all this stuff?
And I hope that I hope we get to see maybe like some version of Excalibur or an X-Men team that has like Colossus and Psylocke and some of these.
We saw Psylocke real quick.
Shadowcat. We saw her picture on Forge's board.
We got Alpha Flight.
Yeah, Alpha Flight.
Other teams would be pretty cool to see, even if like X Factor. You know what I mean? Bring in the we saw Vulcan. Damn it! Bring in the other Summers brother and let's have them all fight each other.
And Iceman, they definitely like saved some heavy hitters for next season or for future seasons.
Yeah, and I would love to see more teams, like you said, like even like the Brotherhood. That'd be be cool to see that. X-Force, X Factor.
No Mystique. X-Force. Like we haven't seen Mystique.
Yeah,
and Mystique. And actually, like Mystique and Forge obviously had a whole thing when she was a part of X Factor, and that could be Valerie Cooper's in the mix, so definitely. The door's open for some sort of a government-sponsored mutant team.
There's so many different ways they can go, right? Because it's not like they're afraid to write their own content, but how they're doing it is like there's just so much out from the comics. Like a number of different ways that they can go, and it'll be super interesting to see like future seasons. Like who do we get? Where do we go?
And
I will boycott the show if we don't get Senyaka. Okay.
I was just gonna say, like with the acolytes, there you go. You might have a. But did Senyaka must have showed up in like the Avalon episode, or like, because
yeah,
we've had
he's just a background character.
And we even got Amelia Voigt in this as a first responder at Genosha.
Yeah,
like,
that's pretty cool.
And yeah, like an amazing, commentary on the horrors of tragedies like that.
Yeah.
So a lot of us are walking around with a lot of X-Men knowledge, and everyone who worked on this show seemingly is the same way. Like, they didn't miss a trick. Like, there were so many, like, there were references I missed. It's just like, whoever's in charge of the lore, and just like, they must have had like those graphic novels like everywhere, like, for people to
something.
Check out. Yeah,
they must have read a lot of material. Like, holy shit,
very impressive.
But the last episode,
but that's what we wanted.
The fact that like we got Daredevil, and you see Peter Parker and Mary Jane.
That was like, fun.
It's like, oh god, that's cool. And
especially because because as people pointed out, like the Spider-Man the animated series kind of ends up in the like it's Spider-Man's looking for Mary Jane, right? Like, she's like kind of lost, and that's like one of the big unresolved things that the show got canceled before they could resolve that. So it's cool to see, like, Peter Parker found Mary Jane, and
closure. Yes.
Yeah, closure.
Yeah, just the fact that Cloak and Dagger, you see Doctor Strange operating on someone, Iron Man and Captain America, like they put a lot of little sprinkles throughout this whole thing.
They knew what they're
even had a speaking part.
Doing. And I mean they're setting up a full Marvel 90s animated universe. Like, I've already heard they're talking about like a Spider-Man 98 or whatever. Like, they're they know what they're doing.
They had those Avengers cartoons from like late 2000s, early 2010s, like what was it, Earth's Mightiest Heroes and Avengers Assemble, which were both fantastic cartoons. And they had Witch, and then they already tried it. Then they did like Hulk and the Agents of Smash, which was just a bunch of Hulks, obviously, and they got Devil Dinosaur in there, I think, and
as you do,
right, and they did a couple different Spider-Man cartoons that were not bad, but they were. The one thing they did do is they did have like everybody intertwining, like kind of cross, like there were like it was all meshed together and stuff like that. So it was interesting to see, and it'll be interesting to see if they do something along those lines, but more in the style of the X-Men 97 stuff.
I mean, even the old 90s cartoons they can bring back, because there was the Fantastic Four cartoon, there was Iron Man. There was the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk cartoon. I think the Spider-Man, obviously. I think there was maybe one other one, but like they existed back then. Let's just bring them now and mush them all together, and make an MCU, animated Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
Well, in Marvel's, it would be the Marvel. It would be the MAU, because DC AU is the DC animated stuff, and that's actually good, really good. But the thing that kept getting me was they did a really good job at making sure things were time period, right? It wasn't like everybody was like whipping out cell phones.
No cell phones.
Like that too.
It was like tube TVs. The soundtrack was fantastic. Like, it was all like, it felt like I was watching something from the 90s. like you could try to put something back, like be like it's taking place in the 90s, but it doesn't sound like it, right? Like it's always one of those big things where the color schemes they used in a lot of the stuff, like it was like the bright, vibrant colors. Like I felt like if every character came out in a windbreaker, it would have been totally on par with everything. And the neon colors. Zach Morris shows up in his, with his massive cell phone would have been okay, right? Like, but that's like every time, like as I'm watching the episodes and it's going through, it's that's the one, like it kept kicking throughout the episodes. I'm like, there's a massive fight, like when they're on Genosha and it's the dance party that's happening like right before shit hits the fan, right?
That was cringe.
Huh?
I said that was a little cringy. Rogue and Magneto.
Well, yeah, all right. Like remove that one piece, but like everything
Although,
else.
real
like,
quick, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here, because like I mean, like that like hand animation of their hands touching and like the focus on that's like, oh, that's what that's what this relationship is kind of about. It's like, this is like important.
I can actually touch you and not murder you.
Physical interaction, right, is like important, right? And so this is what we're saying here visually, physically, for what Rogue is dealing with, like the choices that the choice she's weighing in her mind. And we realize that it's sort of like her last, it's like, this is not the path I'm going to walk down, but I'm going to have one last moment of enjoying it.
Yeah.
Right. No, like, right. So like that, you are correct on that. Like as they're showing it, I was like, no, this is like, it's a fantastic scene because of basically what you just said. And Gambit, like basically having the tear that, he's got that single tear that he's like, I can't do. It's like the one thing he can't do. It's the one thing he can't give Rogue. He can give him literally, he can give her literally everything else he's got.
His life. He gives his life to her.
Yeah.
Right? That kinetically charged freaking motorcycle was fantastic.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh my god.
But I was gonna just go back to that, but that whole dance scene, like the sound, the color, like it was just I don't know.
The Ace of Base playing.
Right?
Like doesn't get more 90s than that, right?
Right? When that came on, I was like, that can't be. Like it sounds like it, but I didn't actually go look and verify, but I was pretty sure it was.
The end of that episode where it just cuts to black and you just hear Rogue like whimpering, I'm like, oh, you assholes. You're a cartoon. You're not supposed to make me feel like this.
I know. I can't feel you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. The great irony that like, she's touching him, but he's dead because he's dead. Like it's not, there's no more life to drain, like,
to steal.
Yeah.
Oh, then when she just freaking lets it all out on Bastion, just fucking she yells, remember it, and just clocks him. Oh, it was so good.
All of Rogue's facial expressions is so good. Like the drawing and animation and character design, just everything about the visuals of this show, just like,
oh my god, yeah,
like just so good.
Any doubt or reservation I had before the show came out, like, instantly disappeared. I was like, because the trailer made the animation look like it might have been wonky. It made them kind of look stiff the way it was cut.
Yeah.
And then once I started watching the first episode, I was like, oh, it was just a badly cut trailer. Like this is fucking great.
Yeah.
I still don't think I've seen the trailer.
That's fine. Just watch the show.
Yeah, you've seen the show.
Right.
But it's true. And one of the things I give the show credit for too, from an animation standpoint, is like, obviously the big fight scenes and the big action moments are beautifully, like lusciously animated, dynamic. But the small moments too, like, no punches pulled. Like these characters fully move in space. The the range of facial expressions. It's like, because I feel like a lot of times in animation you do see sort of like a more of a like an anime effect where it's like characters are very still unless they need to move, and it's like as it's done more through like editing and just this is like they didn't cut any corners. It's like everything is fully animated, like everyone's moving around, like even if they're talking in the war room, like it
was actually choreographed, and like
you had Nightcrawler really
and one thing I love about that is when he's doing that, teleporting all over, doing all the fight, like he teleports, and you can just see him like you can see it taking a lot of energy out of him. And I was just the small things like that make them more, as silly as it sounds, real, alive. Yeah, it's just all that stuff just sucked me in more, and I was like, oh my god, like please give me more of this, like. And now season 2, and I can't freaking wait. Which hopefully we don't have to wait a year.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've been working on it, right? But I mean, that stuff does take a long time, and
for sure,
to have, I mean, this show was, I think, delayed a year, but it's like, for animation like that, like it's like, it's worth it. Like it's looks beautiful. Like it's this you wouldn't think that something like this would come together quickly, like
I have to say is probably more taxing than actually like with real people.
The animation.
Well, yeah. So like, I think there's people out there that think, oh, just draw it, it'll be quicker than like actually trying to like get people to act it. And it's like,
no way.
It's like you can reshoot that a million times, and it'll like especially the way they're animating it, it doesn't feel like it really just doesn't feel like it's 2024. It feels like it really does feel like it's from the late 90s, right? Like that's it. That's the way it is, and
just crisp and clean,
right? It's not CG, so if they were doing a CG, it would probably be quicker. I don't animate or do anything, so I would assume that if you didn't have to like make it look like an old, like something else that already existed, it would be a lot easier to kind of create your own style and go forward. That's just my thoughts.
But it is cool that they're not it's not just a recreation of the original cartoon. Like it's like they are doing their own thing, and clearly the animation side is incorporating other aspects of like 90s X-Men fandom, in the references to the Capcom games and some of the sort of more like even like the anime intros, the Japanese anime intros from the cartoon that had really dynamic animation, and I feel like even like some of the Joe Madureira comics and stuff that more of that anime manga influence that was starting to be incorporated into X-Men in the late 90s. Like you feel some of that like dynamic, just really lavish, detailed drawing start to enter into the mix.
I don't think we could have gotten more.
Yeah.
I don't think our brains could have handled more. Like, holy shit.
What I think what I'm trying to say is we couldn't have asked for more of a cartoon that is supposed to take place in 1997 immediately after another cartoon ended, but almost 30 years later, right? Like I've had people ask me, so why is it called X-Men 97? But it's 2024, and I'm like, all right, well, it takes place in 1997, right after the other cartoon.
which ended in 1996.
Right. Right.
You know, which so, that's a bold move. Like, you know, right off the bat, it's like, you know, that's the perfect pitch. It's like, because I mean, you could, you know, pick up with the X-Men, you know, or you could just update it, move it to today, but it's like,
reboot it or whatever.
But it's it's keeping it consistent with the story. It's honoring the storyline that we all like fell in love with in the first place.
Yeah.
And how many times do you think they watched the entire series to make sure they didn't do it wrong? Before while they're writing season 1, like you talked about how like they probably had all the source material like literally just shoved around everywhere, right? How many times do you think they ran through the entire series? Like, it had to have been a lot.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty. I mean, because like I've rewatched the series quite a few times, just working on the figures and stuff for getting like, you know, reference material and stuff. But even I forget like this. Like, there are things where it's like, oh, they've never done that before, and it's like there's a whole episode devoted. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot about like he showed up there. Like they already explained that. Like, but this show, as far as I can tell, like didn't mess up anything. Like they're, you know, fully versed in the original series,
right?
And,
that was my point. Is
like no plot holes and.
Yeah, I mean, even the season 5 stuff, they're like finding, deep cuts that they're building out new storylines with. Like, I mean, it's like they did their homework for sure.
I also liked how before every episode when they did the previously on X-Men, like it was new scenes that you've never seen before, and the only time you saw them was in those like recap videos, and then you had to watch every single intro video because it changed and it was additional footage and scenes that they kept on cycling through. And it's like, you bastards, like all these little things
just giving us everything. It's like, we're going to show you Dark Phoenix. We're going to show you like, Storm fighting Callisto in the Morlock tunnels. Like we're going to show you all these like, Cable fighting
Apocalypse.
That was our best view of Apocalypse. And he looks so good like that. I mean, that has like kind of like a Marvel versus Capcom look to that Apocalypse design. Like,
what do you think about the rumors that Kang is potentially the one that sent them back in time and in the future?
I mean that makes sense. I mean, because that's so season 4 of the original series, it ends with and that was supposed to be like the end of the original like finale to the series. And that is a whole big time travel epic where Apocalypse has like taken over like the center of time, and Bishop is like displaced, and there's this sort of like this crazy wacky kind of like, Robin Williams as the genie type character that always showed up in the 90s, like who's like guiding Bishop, and he turns out to be like at the end it's like revealed that he's Kang the Conqueror, or whatever Kang's like, I don't know if it's like the Beyonder or like whatever his like time king persona is. Like anyway, it's him. It's so I think that's been established in the shows, that so probably that character could be at the center of a time, anything to do with time and Apocalypse. Like we've been there before.
Because I and again, I was never heavily into the comics, but that dome that they looked at after they realized, so from what I saw, like in the comics, that's Kang's, like he went back in time or whatever and became like a pharaoh before Apocalypse, Apocalypse's powers manifested and stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah, so in Fantastic Four, they fight a villain called the Pharaoh. I think that's I could be getting my wires crossed, but like he's supposed to be like a descendant of Doctor Doom in the future, and that's Kang. I'm sure it's been like retconned and revised in mod, but that was like the original like Jack Kirby.
They never do that.
but I thought that the city was Aqaba, which is like Apocalypse's. It's sort of this the apocalypse cult that like that never progressed in time. It's like this. It's like forever ancient Egypt. I don't know that.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
If you read the Rick Remender X-Force comics, which I highly recommend because they're really great. They do the whole first arc revolves around like Apocalypse and Aqaba and that whole city.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, either way, it looked like that's definitely an infantile apocalypse because he was getting attacked by all the pharaoh guards or whatever you want to call them, and like he definitely doesn't have his powers or celestial powers at least yet. So,
did you have that? I remember that comic like that. I think I got it with a video game. That comic that was like Apocalypse's origin, and yeah, he looks exactly like that. Like they're very faithful.
I mean, that'd be pretty cool if we see a lot of like his origin and stuff like that, or if like the X-Men, they rebrand it so the X-Men kind of have a hand in creating Apocalypse. In the past, that'd be pretty interesting.
Well, again, it's kind of like in the way in which Xavier kind of tried to rehabilitate Magneto by like going back into his memories and trying to sort of get him to see the light. Now they're faced with an opportunity to do that with another villain, like getting back to the root of his origins, like what created this guy who is so who has such a negative worldview. Like where did that begin, and can we change it? Can we fix it? Or do we need to like kill him now before like he destroys, because we know he's destined to destroy the world or rule the world, like
do you go back
what
and
do you
kill baby Hitler?
Yeah, and then again, that's like that Rick Remender X-Force. I believe it's the first arc is about that. It's like Apocalypse has been reincarnated as a child, and X-Force has to decide if they're going to kill him or not. Like
okay, so that's like the like 2008.
Yes,
like around
yes,
okay.
It's like it's awesome. It's like Psylocke, Archangel, Deadpool, Phantom X. It's like, or maybe Phantom X joins later, but it's a great team. Like it's a weird team, but he makes it work. Like it's just really well.
Yeah. I read that series, and that was that has one of the best scenes in it, and I think it's that one. But around that time, it's okay. All right. When Angel gets like the shit kicked out of him.
Oh, he goes up against Famine, so he's like so Famine's powers. He's emaciated. He's like dying of starvation.
Yeah. I don't know if you read this book, Nick, but Archangel's laying there dying of like starvation, and then Deadpool is sitting there, lays him down on his lap, and starts feeding him. And he's like, "Here, buddy, you gotta get your energy back." And as Archangel's eating this, he's like, "What are you feeding me?" And Deadpool's just like, "Don't worry about it." And he's like carving chunks out of him, out of his arm to feed to him.
No,
it's one of the best scenes ever, dude.
You gotta read it, yeah. It's my favorite. So it's my favorite version of Deadpool because it's like there's something he captures this sort of like childlike innocence about Deadpool that I find like really endearing. It kind of balances out the
but then you got Phantom X, who's like just like Deadpool adjacent with how unhinged he is, like. And the fact that they put both of those on the same team.
And Phantom X like such a egomaniac, so vain, but like can get the job done. So like that's also pretty that's like classic Grant Morrison. Like it's a guy who's obnoxious because he's so arrogant and he like thinks he's the best, but he does come through when they need him. Like it's not all.
So I guess we'll keep him around.
Yeah.
Uncanny X-Force.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so 2008 was the reboot when it was like not the reboot, but when Cyclops is sending them out to what were
It's
they
like
doing?
Cyclops' Black Ops team.
Yeah, that was 2008 is when they started that or whatever, and then I think 2010 maybe was the Uncanny one, but yeah, both those runs were good.
That was
Both
like
those runs were
that was
really
like
good.
my X book at the time. Like that was like the only X-Men comic I was reading.
Same here. Same here. Yeah, that got me hooked. I'm like, I need all the black and gray X-Force action
and that
figures
was
you can give me.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and then you
remember
get
that
Age of
they did that
Apocalypse,
box set, yeah.
the San Diego Comic Con one. Yep.
Yeah.
From 2012, I have that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Age of Apocalypse Nightcrawler shows up, and he's part of X-Force. That was pretty cool.
So I do want to see them somehow dive more into Age of Apocalypse stuff in X-Men 97. Just, I mean, I don't know how they could like work it in, but like just because I feel like to see that stuff rendered with this in the style of this show with this kind of animation, and to see like Dark Nightcrawler or Dark Beast, like just the really the flip side battle worn, hardened versions of these characters.
I mean, they could, and in the future where Cyclops and Jean ended up, even though like it's even though that's a world where Apocalypse totally took over, it's still not Age of Apocalypse, which is weird. But they could work that in. Maybe Cyclops sees like a future version, his one-eyed self, or you got Wolverine there missing a hand, shit like that could still come through. Like,
I mean, even if they just put it in the opening intro, like just maybe that's enough, like, just to see
how we
Blink,
got here. How we? Oh, dude, I love Blink. She's badass.
X-Man, Nate Gray.
Oh man, yeah. They should give me Strife and X-Man. Yeah, dude. A completely unhindered Nate Summers, like he doesn't have to hold back because he doesn't have the virus. Right. Like,
right.
Oh,
but that's the like of all the bizarre names.
And he wears a blue shirt, blue pants, and a blue jacket. It's like that episode of Family Guy where they're like, Peter, what are you doing over there? And he's like, nothing, just hanging out in my jean shorts or my jean pants, my jean shirt, my jean jacket. Like that's X-Men.
Bring on the next seasons. But I mean, like, how lucky are we that, like, last time we talked, we had no idea what the trailer hadn't even come out. Like, we had no idea what this show was going to be.
We're nervous.
And now here we are, having experienced like such a great show, such a gift, and like, the X-Men are back. Like, it was awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's not even. Yeah, it's not even like it came and was like meh. It came and like exceeded every possible expectation.
Yeah.
I also looked it up.
It came out and it punched us all in the throats, and we're like,
yeah.
I can't stop watching.
The supervisor is the person who keeps track of everything in continuity, so they must have had a very good script supervisor and or team of script supervisors to make sure that none of this stuff was missed. So congrats to whoever that is. You probably won't see this or hear it, but you did a great job.
Exactly. And R.I.P. Gambit.
Yeah. Although,
look,
that death is coming.
Took more out of me than I ever like. I didn't see it. I heard it happened, and then I saw it afterwards. Like, I wasn't like up to date when I knew it was going to happen. So I knew it was coming, and it still hit hard. Like,
it's because he also has such like a heroic final moment. Like, it's just like he's like
he went out like a badass.
He's like an X-Man in every sense of the word. Like, he is just, it's just like he's at his peak, right? And he goes out with a bang. Literally.
And he's saved everybody. He went out a hero. He went out of here. It was fantastic.
Yeah,
but not,
that's what makes
it.
I mean, that's what makes it so. I mean, because they could, oftentimes these shows, like, it's a surprising death or it's a shock death or whatever. This is like an emotional one. It's like it really, like, you can kind of feel it. It builds to it. It feels right, but it's so painful.
They make you feel for him, because you're like, he loves Rogue. He just wants to be with her. He doesn't care, what holds them back. He wants her to take some of his life essence. He'll sacrifice it. Like, you just see that love, and then her being with Magneto and the hurt and the pain behind his eyes, and then all that to turn into Rogue kind of snaps to her senses and realizes she should be with Remy, and then he just sacrifices himself for everybody. And it's just it's not just that surprising death, which was a surprise. I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
But it's that emotion and the build up to in that episode, and it's just like, holy shit. Like, way to hurt us.
The moment where I kind of get chills watching in that sequence is when he and Rogue are, like, rushing into action. It's like, okay, it's like time for the X-Men to, like, do their thing and, like, run into the, like, inferno to fight this unstoppable thing. And Gambit's on the motorcycle, Rogue's flying, they're charging in, and there's a moment where their hands overlap, like, in the frame. Like, they don't touch, but they overlap, and, like, it's like they're touching, right? And it's like, oh, the bond between these two, it goes so much deeper than it's skin deep. Like, it's than words, right? It's like, these two have experienced so much together. Like, they're made for each other, and, like, in this moment we're seeing that, right? So it's like, and it's like, it's kind of like a way of visually, like, showing, like, yeah, these are the two that should be together.
All right, Alex, well thanks for being our first reoccurring guest.
Yeah. Thanks
you're the first. We got plenty of offers, but it felt right for you because of where we are in this world and X-Men 97. And I think it's safe to say we'll see you again for season 2.
Yeah. Oh man.